Washington, the United States and its allies on Wednesday formally rejected Russia's demands that NATO retreat from Eastern Europe and bar Ukraine from ever entering the alliance, but they proposed several areas, including nuclear arms control and limits on military exercises, where they will. The written responses, issued separately by the Biden administration and NATO, offered President Vladimir V. Putin of Russia choice: enter negotiations with Washington and its allies, including Ukraine, or proceed with an invasion and face what the administration says will be crushing economic sanctions. American intelligence officials say Mr. Putin still has not made a decision, and may not for several weeks. As described by American and European officials, the two written responses formalize positions that the United States and NATO have asserted since Mr. Putin issued his demands weeks ago while massing Russian troops along Ukraine's eastern border. Mr. Putin sought guarantees that Ukraine would never join NATO, and he wanted NATO allies to pull all troops and nuclear weapons from former Soviet republics and nations that once belonged to the Warsaw Pact. He said in December that his demands must be addressed right away, right now. The documents delivered on Wednesday rejected a few of the demands as non-starters and listed several Western concerns about Russia's behavior that would have to be part of reciprocal agreements. And those, by necessity, would take time. In a brief speech and then in response to reporters' questions, Secretary of State Antony J. Blinken said the responses from the United States and NATO were drafted together and approved by President Biden after weeks of consultations with allies and Ukraine. The American response, Mr. Blinken said, sets out a serious diplomatic path forward should Russia choose it. He said he expected to speak with his Russian counterpart, Sergey V. Lavrov, in the coming days when Russian officials are ready to discuss next steps. Senior American diplomats say at least one more round of talks will probably take place with the Russians before Mr. Putin decides between diplomacy and an invasion, which American officials say could kill thousands of people.